folks, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I just want to address a couple of issues. Look, there are genuine flat earthers, and then there are those people who want to create confusion. As you are trying to put the puzzle pieces together, they're going to come and try and mix up those puzzle pieces. So you need to think, are these people confused, or are they deliberately creating confusion? Right, so they're going to play mind games with you. Look, if someone says to you, I'm a flat earther, right? The earth is flat, but you can see a 24-hour sun at Antarctica. Well, they're playing games with you. You just need to stop and think. How's that? Well, they're referring to the Antarctic, where the sun can be viewed across the entire Antarctic from any location at the same time. Well, then there can't be an ice wall. So, put everything in perspective. What they're saying is there can't be an ice wall. If there's no ice wall, then the Antarctic must be like a continent that's rotating. Then this can't be true, and so the map can't be true, and therefore the earth can't be flat. It's a logical reason. Right? So do you understand? They're playing games with you. So they'll say they're flat earthers, but they're just Masonic pimps. They're disrupting your thinking, and as you're trying to put the pieces together, they're disrupting that. Because that's what they do. This fine experiment. When they said that they went there to get some footage of the never-ending sun, right, they went to Narnia, they went to the South Pole. It doesn't exist. Narnia and the South Pole are made-up lands. They don't exist. They can show you a map. It's just an image. It doesn't make it real. Look, they play mind games with you. This mind game starts when you're a young child. You just need to ask the questions. Why didn't your father give you the presents dressed as himself? Why did your father have to dress up like a clown? Because it's a mind game. And who's the father of this mind game? Who's your real father? In this instance, it's Santa or Satan. Because that's how Satan operates. His pimps, his Masonic pimps operate in the same way. They play games. So you just need to question. Stop and think and ask questions. So look, when you see the truth, you're putting the puzzle pieces together and things start adding up. But what do? Right? Anything that's the truth, they shatter that and disrupt it. Right? And that's what they're doing. They're disrupting it. So it's not because they're confused, it's they deliberately creating confusion. So we're going to have a look at Peter and Pete, and I'm going to show you how they deliberately cause disruption. They don't address issues. Look, they're talking bullshit. They're going to misdirect you because they're pimps. They're Masonic pimps. You must understand that the entire education system, this is how it works. And they just regurgitate the same bullshit. Right? So remember, are they confused or are they deliberately creating confusion? So I'm going to listen to Pete and Pete, and I'm going to show you how they create confusion. Where there are issues that are simple, right? But then they mix the puzzle pieces up. So let's listen. I'm going to show you exactly what they're doing.
They've been going out to Uni and Glacia camp for years and years and years. Why is it they've just pumped out the video footage now?
Well, why does a pilot put up videos about
Well, things only happen when the time's right.
well, there is that, and
Things only happen when the time's right. And obviously,
it's like a pilot doesn't really care about the shape of the earth.
Really? That's your dumbass answer. It's excuses. Remember, The sun is up for 24 hours, and these people, they didn't notice. It's just another day of the same shit. Really? That's the excuse. The issue is, the 24-hour sun is unique. People would have made videos of it and posted it. People who were at the South Pole, yet nobody ever did. Right? You're looking at a 24-hour sunrise and sunset. You're trying to tell me that somehow the people were there because the time wasn't right, according to dumbass Pete and Pete? No. They're talking horseshit, and instead this is what we get. Right? This nonsense. Right? So what are Pete and Pete doing? They're just muddying the waters. They're messing up the pieces so that it doesn't make sense, and it's done deliberately. So in my last video I showed you, we talked about a time lapse. Now I'm going to show you how Pete and Pete deliberately don't address the issues, and they're just creating confusion. So let's listen to what they're saying, and I'm going to explain a few things to you.
But the thing is, they're rotating around that central point,
and yet they weren't any. They were about 900 kilometres away from the alleged South Pole.
1,000 kilometres away from the alleged point in which the Earth would rotate.
Yeah. So what?
So I don't think we don't think Rory's animations actually reflect.
Sure.
We don't think Rory's videos actually reflect
the time-lapse video that was taken.
So the position of the people when they were at Union Glacier camp.
Yeah.
But it's bullshit. Remember, Union Glacier is supposed to be about 1,000 kilometers from the pole. That means that camp is rotating in a circle, right? A circumference of 7,150 kilometers. Therefore, the speed of Union Glacier would be 297 kilometers an hour. So they focus on the distance, and they're saying, well, that wouldn't change anything. They're not addressing the speed of Union Glacier. There's the issue. If there was a South Pole, you would not be able to take a time lapse. Why? Your speed would make it impossible. It's as simple as that. But Peter and Pete don't address the issues. They're going to run around and mix up the puzzle pieces. They're creating confusion.
But when you look at the time-lapse on Antarctica, the time-lapse is pretty clear, crystal clear, with everything in shot and nothing blurring or anything.
Yeah. See, a globehead might come and rebut that by saying that it's all relative.
Well, it could do, yeah, I mean, it could do.
It's all relative. It's bullshit. Right? That's the answer they're giving you, that it's relative. Is it relative? No. They don't address that, because it's not. It's not relative. They're talking horseshit. Right? Because they're Masonic pimps. Remember, they don't address issues. Where there's an issue, they're either going to say the speed is relative or gravity. That's going to make the problems go away. So let's deal with the issues. If you at Union Glacier and you're doing a time lapse, what are the issues that you need to deal with? Here's a motorbike. The motorbike's riding towards this camera. So from the camera's perspective, you would see the motorbike riding towards the camera. If I rotate the camera, right, you'd say, well, it's the same. No, it's not the same. They'd say, no, it's relative. Is that true? Is it the same for both? No, it's not. What is the speed? Are both these motorbikes traveling the same speed? No, they're not. So this relative thing is bullshit. Right? They don't address the issues. So what do? They mix up the puzzle pieces because they're Masonic pimps. So they'll say, well, it's a globe head. Right? So they're making out as if they're flat earthers. They're not. They're Masonic pimps. They're sent there to mix up the puzzle pieces. Right? And their lame excuses is, well, a globe head might say it's relative. But you see, they're throwing that in there. Why? It's to say to you, well, that's the answer that sorts the issue out. Right? They're sneaky. It doesn't resolve the issue. Right? That's the issue. Your speed would make it impossible for you to do a time lapse.
A globe head might come and rebut that by saying that it's all relative.
The final experiment, right? Their evidence was time lapse. Well, they wouldn't have been able to produce that time lapse if that's where they were. It's as simple as that. So the footage must be fake. Right? It's logical. If I'm at a rotating platform, I've got two motorbikes. The motorbikes aren't moving. Right? If I'm facing the street lamp, what will the speed be of the two motorbikes? They won't be the same speed. The motorbike further away in my footage must travel faster. Right? So in your footage, the speed of the motorbikes would be different. There'd be parallax shift, and the speeds of the motorbikes would be different. Right? And if you then take that and you squash that and you speed it up into a time lapse, you just get blurry nonsense. That's the issue. It's not about, remember, they're focusing on the distance from the rotation to Glacia. They're saying that the animation now doesn't fit the distance. It's your speed, dumbass. I don't need to make a two-scale animation. It's logical. Your speed doesn't add up. Right? Look. Yeah, these dumbasses. Right? They went to Narnia, the South Pole. The fact that you see this airplane sitting at the South Pole tells you that it's not possible. Right? They couldn't have landed on the moon because the moon's speed is unbelievably fast. So I know they didn't land on the moon because of the moon's speed. It's not possible. I also know that the entire heliocentric model is a load of bullshit. Right? It's the speed. How do you land an airplane on an ice airport that's rotating at 297 kilometers an hour? Right? If you are coming from north, south, east or west, you're coming from the United States, you're coming from Australia, South Africa, wherever, how does the pilot navigate? How does he land the airplane? How do you land an airplane on an ice runway that's moving at a speed of around about 300 kilometers an hour? How do you navigate? Doesn't matter which direction you're coming from. I can rotate the South Pole in any way, then spin the whole thing. The airplane is now spinning with the Earth because that's what they're saying. His direction would continue to change. As the Earth spins, Glacier's position is changing. So every hour or so, the pilot has to recalculate where the glacier is going to be so that he can freaking land on it. And then how does he land on it if it's traveling at that speed? Right? So remember, they're throwing in this thing about everything's relative, where it's a lie. Right? That's the get out of jail free card, gravity, and it's all relative. Oh, it's a lie. So remember, he's saying, well, a globe head might doing it. No, that's what he's throwing in there to do away with the issues, because he's a Masonic pimp.
A globe head might come and rebut that by saying that it's all relative.
So you need to use logic and common sense, right? Peter and Peter saying that the Narnia South Pole footage is legit. Really? If the footage is legit, then the South Pole is real. There can't be an ice wall. The whole thing about the 24-hour sun at Antarctica was to play these mind games. That's all they're doing. It's a mind game. It's bullshit. Because they need to do away with the great ice wall of the Antarctic. The Antarctic is an ice wall. It's not like a continent that's rotating. They're playing games. So you need to focus. So Pete and Pete, they sound a lot like school teachers, right? Regurgitating the same bullshit, right? And misdirection. So to explain it to Pete and Pete, because they got this school teacher mentality, I'm going to break it down for them, right? There's some kids on a merry-go-round. They're all going around the same axis. It means the camera's not turning, the camera's looking at the kids. Right. So our teachers, our dumbass teachers, Peter and Pete, they're going to go stand next to the merry-go-round. And then we're going to look at them. So remember, we're illustrating a point of what would the camera see. And Pete and Pete would say to you, well, there is no merry-go-round at Union Glacia. Right. What kind of messed up logic is that? The point is we're illustrating an issue. So, if you filming on a merry-go-round that's turning, all these kids are looking at you, what would you see? Well, the kids would be looking at you, and dumbass Pete and Pete would be orbiting around you in your footage. But if you turned your camera and focused on Pete and Pete, what would happen? Remember, the merry-go-round's traveling at the same speed. Kids in the background would be moving faster. Everybody would be moving, so there'd be parallax shift, and the kids would be moving at different speeds. Pete and Pete's response to that is, it doesn't fit what's happening at Union Glacier, when in fact it does. The Earth must be rotating. You'd have the same issues. So they would throw in, well, it's all relative. Well, it's relative. It's a bullshit lie. It's not relative. Right? So we don't see that parallax shift. And remember, how big is Union Glacier? How big is this camp? It's bigger than a flippin' merry-go-round. You'd have the same issues on this merry-go-round. Do you understand? If that's the issue you got on a small merry-go-round, what kind of issues would you have on this big site because you're focusing on the sun? What kind of issues would you have? How big is that campsite? You'd have the same issues. Things would speed up and slow down. Right. So Pete and Pete, they're just Masonic pimps. They're not real flat earthers. Right? They're playing games with you. So look, think about the speed. Union Glacier will be traveling at about 300 kilometers an hour. Think about the direction that people are walking in. Look at the shadows. How would the shadows behave? If you were filming there, what would your expectations be? Long shadows. Look at the direction that people are walking in. Right? Because you have to keep your camera focused on the sun. People will be rotating. Shadows will be crossing over each other. Because that's in your time lapse. Right? The concept of a South Pole that is spinning is just stupid. Right? It's dumbass stupid. There is no South Pole. It cannot exist. Right? So you need to focus. Look at the shadows. Think about direction. If it's a time lapse, think about positioning as the Earth rotates. Things that were facing one way would now face another way. They'd be moving at different speeds, long shadows that should overlap and cross over. Except they give us this horse shit. Right? Think about sunrise and sunset. What does sunrise and sunset look like? Really? This is what sunrise and sunset looks like. And then Pete and Pete want to say, no, they didn't do this in a studio, it's legit. Piss off, man. You Masonic pimp. Right. So, do you understand that they know what's going on? Because they're throwing that in there. So they understand what's going on.
Because he's going on the basis that you're on the other side of the rotating sphere, and that means that the sphere is rotating at a certain speed.
Sure. And yet the only thing that was rotating in the time-lapse video was the sun and the camera.
They know exactly what's going on. So look, I can show you this map and say, look, here's a map of the Antarctic, it's the South Pole. Here's a map of Narnia. Doesn't mean it's real. They've made the whole bullshit thing up because we're not living on a spinning ball. Right? So just think about the answers they give you. Do you think this idiot by accident found a vape in his jacket pocket? Right? The only one there, and somehow after 2 years the battery was still fine. Really? Really? So, he would have needed to have an extra set of batteries that he accidentally found in his other pocket that he accidentally charged the day before. Okay, so look, here's the point is that these people are liars. That's how these people work. Everything they do is complete bullshit. Right? It's fake book. Everything they do is horseshit. And genuine flat earthers are not caught by their bullshit. We call them out and expose them and say, look, Peter and Pete, you Masonic pimps, sit down and shut up. So I hope this video has helped you out. Cheers and thanks for watching.